Welcome back to episode 2 of our exploration into the world of incorporated companies. In this two-part series, we'll be uncovering different types of companies that can be established under the Companies Act No. 7 of 2007. Today in part 1, we'll delve into the concept of incorporation, limited liability, and the various types of limited companies. Let's dive in. Before we delve into the specifics, let's first grasp the essence of incorporation. The term incorporating stems from the Latin word corpus, meaning body. When it comes to companies, it signifies the creation of a legal entity or a legal person. A company can come into existence through an act of parliament or through registration under the Companies Act No. 7 of 2007. The process of forming a company under the Companies Act involves submitting an application to the Registrar of Companies. This application includes the constitution, the names of the initial director and the company secretary, along with a small fee. This process is known as incorporation. In the world of companies, you often encounter two terms, member and shareholder. The term member generally applies to companies limited by guarantee, whereas shareholders take prominence in other entities such as private limited companies. According to Section 35 subsection 2 of the Companies Act, a company limited by guarantee is treated as if it were a limited company. This implies that all provisions of the Act, except for a few sections listed under the Schedule 3 of the Companies Act, apply to it with certain modifications. Reference to shareholders become members. Each member is considered to hold one share, and the share register is replaced by the register of members. Now let's discuss the outcomes of incorporation. One of the key advantages is the concept of separate legal personality. Just like individuals are recognized as legal persons, an incorporated company is also considered a legal entity. It stands as a distinct legal entity apart from its shareholders within the framework of the legal system it operates under. As a separate legal entity, the company can engage in contracts, own assets, initiate legal actions, and be subject to lawsuits in its own name. Its gains and losses are attributed to the company itself, not to its members or shareholders. Limited liability signifies that the members of the company are only responsible for the unpaid portion of their shares and are not held accountable for the company's debts. Once the company's assets are exhausted, creditors cannot pursue the personal assets of the members. Nevertheless, there are exceptional instances where this protection might not apply. One of these cases involves the lifting the veil of incorporation, where the legal separation between a company and its members can be set aside under specific circumstances. We will explore this concept in greater detail in a later episode. Perpetual succession is another noteworthy outcome of incorporation. This principle dictates that the company's existence continues uninterrupted regardless of changes in ownership or shareholders. Whether a member passes away or there are alterations in share ownership, the company's legal personality remains intact, ensuring smooth operations through shifts in ownership or membership. This concept is pivotal for maintaining business continuity and stability, enabling the company to navigate changes without interruption. In the world of law, companies stand as their own persons, but they operate through humans. Over time, laws have adapted to fit their unique roles. Sometimes special rules are created just for companies. A special set of laws is known as company law. Continuing on, let's explore the various types of limited companies that can be incorporated under the Companies Act. Companies Act offers provisions for establishment of different types of companies, each with its own specific characteristics. These variations cater to diverse business needs and structures, allowing entrepreneurs and investors to choose the most suitable model for their ventures. Moving on, we have the private limited companies. Private companies typically get the funding from founders' savings or bank loans. They can't raise money from the general public. Single shareholder companies are also allowed, including cases where Secretary to the Treasury holds shares for the government of Sri Lanka. Next, there are public limited companies. These companies aim to raise capital from the public. To be listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange, they need to meet certain requirements like minimum public ownership and shareholders. The exchange provides clear guidelines for transparency, liquidity, and investor protection. There could also be non-listed public limited companies. When a private company crosses 50 shareholders, it must remove private from its name, becoming public as per Section 11, subsection 1 of the Act. If a stock exchange listed company delists, it must change its name, replacing public limited company with limited, according to Section 11, subsection 4. This signals shift from listed to non-listed status. These name changes ensure clarity for investors and the public about the company's legal and listing status. Moving on to offshore companies, these have a vital role in global business like trade, investment and consulting. As defined in Section 260 of the Act, offshore companies are those formed outside Sri Lanka. They can leverage the nation's advantageous tax and business conditions. For setting up an offshore company in Sri Lanka, refer to Section 261 for application procedure and required documents to submit to the registrar. After registration, an offshore company can operate internationally, but it's crucial to remember that it's not allowed to do business within Sri Lanka. It will be intriguing to observe the emergence of such companies once the Colombo port city becomes operational. Let's delve into two more company types: unlimited companies and companies limited by guarantee. An unlimited company, according to Section 3, involves shareholders with boundless liability obligated to contribute to the company's assets as per its articles. In contrast, a company limited by guarantee, also in Section 3, doesn't release shares. Instead, its members commit to contributing a designated amount to the company's assets in the event of liquidation. Section 32 of the Act permits any two or more individuals to apply for forming a company limited by guarantee. The application is submitted to the registrar in a specified form signed by the initial members and accompanied by key documents including the Articles of Association. These articles must outline the company's objectives and members pledge contributions in case of liquidation as detailed in Section 33, subsection 1. Section 34 addresses a unique circumstance where the registrar approves an association to be registered as a company limited by guarantee for specific beneficial goals, like commerce, art, charity or sport. In such instances, the company can adopt a name aligned with its cause without the addition of limited. Note that modifications to the articles of a company limited by guarantee need prior written approval of the registrar as per Section 34, subsection 4. In short, while Section 32 covers forming a general company limited by guarantee, Section 34 highlights instances where associations with valuable objectives can register with a unique name allowance. Let's now delve into overseas companies overseen by Part 18 of the Act. An overseas company is one founded outside Sri Lanka but has established or maintains a place of business within the nation. The term place of business is outlined in Section 488 of the Act. For an overseas company adhering to conditions in Section 488, Section 489 subsection 1 mandates registration in Sri Lanka. Within a month of setting up a place of business in Sri Lanka, the company must provide the registrar with these documents for registration: certified copy of the Constitution including governing documents, director list following Act requirements, name and addresses of the Sri Lankan residents authorized to handle company's documents, registered office details and Sri Lankan place of business, proof of the company's incorporation. Once documents are received, the registrar registers the company as an overseas company. The data is recorded in the Register of Overseas Companies and a registration certificate is issued. Ongoing compliance under Section 492 necessitates annual submission of certified financial statements to the registrar. If needed, translation should accompany the statement for clarity. That concludes Part 1 of our journey into incorporated companies. In Part 2, we'll delve into the incorporation of a private limited company. This initiative is part of our CSR endeavor, aiming to educate the community about the fundamentals of company law. Stay tuned for more insights and information.